Hello everyone and welcome to the Garden of the Black Roses. This is the next chapter of Magic of Moonlight. Yeah. Actually, let me check my calendar if this recording is going to fall on a special day, because I know there's quite a few coming up. No, it doesn't. Nope. Okay, cool. So this is chapter 14, Cheerleader Chaos. Chelsea sat in her bedroom frustrated. She had the perfect opportunity to force Sebastian's hand, and now it was gone. His wolf, Griffin, just had to intervene and retrieve Ember before they deteriorated further. Growling, she threw a snow globe across the room. She had even lost a decent ally who managed to separate Sebastian and Ember. He made it so no one could find her. Of course Griffin could find her, she screamed into her pillow. Griffin would go through hellfire to reach her. Why can't that wolf even look at me? He could sway Sebastian's opinion of me, but no, it has to be Ember. Tears streamed down her face. The trial and outcome were today. Only the alphas, Luna's witnesses, victims, and accused could go. She hated not knowing what was going to become of Trance. Was he going to throw her under the bus? She felt betrayed by the moon goddess. She had been with Sebastian since he was born. Wasn't she worthy to be his mate? Why was the moon goddess being so cruel? Darling, what's wrong? She had not even heard her mother come into her room. Why are you so upset? Everything's wrong. Chelsea grabbed a hold of her mother and began to cry. Sebastian won't even look at me. All he cares about is Ember. Ember is his true mate, isn't she? Her mother asked, shocking Chelsea. I thought you would be, since you two were so close. Her mother sighed and leaned back to look up at the ceiling. I was angry and frustrated as well. I thought that maybe there was an agreement between the two packs to mate them together, to make a larger pack, and they had asked the Werewolf King to allow it. She watched as her mother gave a deep and heavy sigh. But after talking to Luna Rebecca and Luna Rias, I can see how close Sebastian and Ember were as children. When I was pregnant with you, he never latched himself onto me like he did with Luna Rebecca. She gently sat up and cupped Chelsea's face with her hands. I'm sorry I pushed you to learn to be a Luna. I'm sorry I told you that Sebastian was going to be your mate. She wiped a tear from her cheek. You need to let Sebastian be with his mate. She is his true mate. The tattoo they both bear signifies that. She gave Chelsea a kiss on the forehead before getting up. How about I make you some strawberry cheesecake? I know it's your favourite. We'll have a movie night together. She smiled and stepped out of the room. Chelsea was baffled. Her mother had just accepted Ember as future Luna in front of her. She threw her pillow at the door. The force of it made the door shut again. I can't believe this. She gritted her teeth in frustration. My parents accepted that nobody is future Luna. I'm more qualified to be future Luna than that loser. She narrowed her eyes. She knew what she must do. Ember had to go. Alpha Alexis sat calmly after relaying what he was allowed to about the trial to his Beta and Gamma. Both were shocked at the news that the moon goddess had possessed Ember. It was clear to them that she was definitely their future Luna, and a powerful one at that. I had never seen a Luna that had been taken over by the moon goddess before, Alpha Alexa said in a whisper. But the aura that flooded that room when she possessed Ember was magical. I felt like a kid again. I felt like there were clouds outside that I could just go, run, and jump into. Kino told me to kneel as soon as I felt it. He told me who she was. I wish I could have been there, Beta Daniel mused lightly. I would have been so proud that it was our future Luna she possessed. Gamma Null nodded in agreement. Where are they now? Gamma Null asked curiously. I know she doesn't have her wolf yet, but perhaps we should pass the Alpha and Luna titles of them soon. Alpha Alexis laughed hard before replying, Where else? Sebastian can't seem to get enough of her, so they're in his bedroom, again. This time, though, Griffin was saying it was his turn. She has her hands full with my son, for sure. Beta Daniel and Gamma Null both laughed at that. Hopefully with Trance gone, they will have some sort of normalcy back to their pairing. Beta Daniel chuckled. Sebastian is probably only like this because Trance was trying to stake claim on Ember. She probably allows him because she probably has had she-wolves trying to stake claims on Sebastian. Their pairing will never be normal, Alpha Alexis thought with a sigh. He was worried about the future Alpha, who the future Alpha will be if it wasn't Sebastian. He had assurances from Ember that it wasn't going to be an issue. Sebastian laid in bed on his back with Ember curled up and fast asleep at his side. He thought back to the trial and Griffin's account. Something about the account confused him. Griffin? His wolf was more inclined to answer his questions instead of teasing him about being oblivious. More inclined lately. What is it, Sebastian? You said that wolves are always reborn together. The pairs are always the same. So the pairs need to be alive together to find each other. The only one who is different to this rebirth cycle is the Werewolf King. Why does the Werewolf King differ? Griffin chuckled lightly at his mate's curiousness. Glacia has 2 mates. Yet in each lifetime she gets to spend it with only one of us. The only time we overlap is when the new king and the old king are alive at the same time. Sebastian's eyes widened at that revelation. So you have always been the werewolf to the Werewolf King? Along with Eagle, correct, Griffin replied. Eagle is currently Tiberius's wolf. He has one more important role to play before he passes on to wait for the cycle to start again. One more important role? Sebastian asked. He could feel Griffin shaking his head. I'm not to know before then? Not yet, Griffin confirmed softly. The role comes after you reveal yourself. Sebastian sighed and looked down at the sea of red hair that spilled out over Ember's shoulder and across his chest. Gently, he brushed her hair with his fingertips, moving it back until he could see her face. She twitched her nose in her sleep before she parted her lips to let out a soft coo. He chuckled. Ember was adorable when asleep, but feisty and energetic when awake. He hoped that they finally will have some peaceful days before her 16th. He glanced up at the calendar on the wall. just a month to go. He smiled to himself and began to mentally plan what the night of her 16th should look like. He couldn't wait to finally meet Glacier. His thoughts paused before he asked curiously, "Then why are there chosen mates?" Griffin huffed lightly in his mind before replying, "Wolves don't have control over our human hosts. While we are spun out time and time again, humans are not. Humans have control to live their lives as they see fit." His voice lower and sounded pained. "Some humans choose to forsake the mate bond and choose their own. The mates not involved, but are forced to bear this choice, are given their own choices." So Trance's true mate chose death? "Many humans who are attuned to their wolves choose that path," Griffin replied. "The other path is living and finding a chosen mate amongst the other species of this world. Falling in love with a non-wolf is hard, but sometimes, for the one making that choice, can be the one that gives them some semblance of life, despite feeling that there is some part of them missing." Sebastian glanced back down at Ember sleeping. "I can't imagine being without Ember. It feels so foreign to even try." "I can't imagine it either, but Eagle has been without Ember once. He was Sigurd's wolf when Faust stole Ella from him." "Faust." Sebastian growled lightly. Ember stirred in his arms, prompting him to stop. "Should I expect more trouble from that family?" "Not in this lifetime," Griffin replied quietly. Both fell into an uneasy but comfortable silence. The next day at school, the trial was big news. Many wolves looked at Sebastian and Ember with awe and mild uncertainty. It was now widely known that Ember had been possessed by the moon goddess and had pulled a wolf spirit from another wolf. No one denied that Trance didn't deserve his punishment, but it made those who bullied Ember in the past to worry she might turn her sights on them next. Sebastian purred softly as he took in deeply her scent. He loved his little apple cinnamon treat and couldn't wait to have another taste soon. He didn't care what others thought of them. If it kept wolves away from who wanted to hurt her, then there was no loss in his eyes. "We have class soon," Ember murmured, after attempting to get out of his arms without any success. "Can you let go of me so I can get my books?" "Just a bit longer," he whispered in her ear before giving it a nip. He could see her unamused expression in the reflection of her locker and sighed. "I'll see you at lunch then." He spun around to give her a kiss before he walked off to his first class of the day. "My mate is a horn dog," she muttered, causing Violet to burst out in laughter next to her. "I can't wait until he names himself. This instinct to be attached to your mate will hopefully stop." "It's Sebastian." Violet giggled. "He's never gonna stop." Ember rolled her eyes before dragging her to their first class. Nearby, Chelsea watched everything carefully. She had been taking in various mannerisms and quirks of Ember's personality to try and mimic her later. Beside her, a fellow Shadowrunner student sat watching Sebastian doing the same thing. Their plan was to start today with him luring Ember away before Chelsea met up with Sebastian at lunch. "She has a free period before lunch," Chelsea murmured softly, as they moved off to make their way to class. "Make sure to lure her away then. Is the holding den ready?" "It's perfect. All she has to do is walk over it and she will fall in. Only way out is up. And if we cover it, no one will know she's there." He glanced at her with a slight smile on his face. "Can we have her? Like once you make Sebastian yours, can we have her as our play toy?" "I don't care what you do with her," Chelsea replied, flipping her hair casually, "as long as she stays out of my way until Sebastian has been claimed by me." "Of course," he chuckled, imagining all the positions he could experiment on with Ember. "Having an alpha's daughter in my bed has always been a dream of mine, and I can't wait for it to come true. They're so rare here, but when they do appear, they're so entitled. Spoiled princesses. I'm glad to get one to do whatever I want." "Well, if you're patient and the cards fall my way quickly," Chelsea smirked, happy with the plan this wolf had in mind for Ember, "then you can have an alpha she-wolf fucking spree. You could fuck her in half for all I care." "Then it's a pleasure doing business with you, Beta Chelsea." He shook her hand before entering the next door over to go to his own class. Chelsea smiled and entered her own class. She watched Sebastian from across the room. "Can't wait for your hands to be around me." She gave a small squeal of excitement before turning to focus on her class. "What are you reading?" Sebastian purred, leaning over Ember as she sat curled in a chair in the school library. He chuckled as she jumped and let out an undignified squawk in surprise. "I thought you had class," she hissed back at him as she settled herself back into her chair again. Sebastian moved behind her chair. He leaned down and wrapped his arms around her, nuzzling his nose into her neck before murmuring, "I wanted to spend your free period with you." "We spoke about this before," Ember replied, mildly terse in tone. "You're the future alpha. You can't be skipping class just because you feel like it. Your dad would be furious if he knew." "Well, it's a bit late for me to go back now," he replied. He picked up her bookmark and placed it in her book before turning her wrist over to show her the time. "I've already missed half of class." He gave her a kiss on her temple. "Besides, there's something I want to show you. I found it during our forest study in biology." "Oh?" Ember popped her book into her bag. "Is it interesting?" Sebastian gently helped her up and started leading her to her locker. "How far is it from school?" "It's very interesting," he replied. He waited until she placed her bag into her locker before guiding her out the door and down to the forest. "It's not far." Ember eagerly followed him. She knew he would have found something very interesting if he was willing to upset her by skipping class just to show her. As they walked deeper into the forest, she became mesmerized by how the light glittered as it shone through the leaves. She tried to look everywhere at once. Sebastian chuckled. His destination was near. He turned and changed his grip on her from their fingers interlinking to him holding onto her wrist. Come, it's not far now. He continued to walk until she let out a loud shriek. He let go of her wrist and turned around to continue back towards the school. Ember looked up at the hole she had fallen into. "Sebastian?" she called. She could hear him circle back before his footsteps walked away again. "Sebastian!" she screamed fearfully. She couldn't understand why he would leave her here, inside this hole. Standing up, she looked around. It was the size of her old room at the Dark Moon pack house. She looked back up at the hole she had fallen through. There was no way she could climb back up. Sighing, she attempted to mind link. "Violet, Rita, Toby, can you hear me?" Her link was a void. Silence. She looked around again, squinting in the low light, trying to see what was in the room she could use. She bit her lip in frustration. Growing in the four corners of the room were wolfsbane plants. She carefully felt along the walls, searching for anything she could use to get out, but there was nothing. Tears rolled down her face. Why? She sat down, anger building up within her. "Help! Anyone!" she screamed, before starting to sob. Her heart hurt. Sebastian had left her here, led her here, let her fall down a hole, and left her here. Help! She couldn't stop crying. She flopped onto her side, unable to keep herself upright from the grief and the effect of the wolfsbane plants. And that's it. I have no words because I've left you on a cliffhanger and it'll probably be awake until the next one comes out. Or if I'm cruel, I might re-record something else in between and leave this cliffhanger for much, much, much longer. But yeah. Maybe I could leave it for a few weeks and put in your thoughts as to what might happen in the description below. What will happen to Ember? What will happen to Sebastian? And maybe what might happen to Chelsea? I'll see you in the next one. And as always, let your imagination run wild. Bye for now.